A lot has happened in the last 48 hours in the race for the Democratic nomination for president. In a state that former Vice President Joe Biden had to win, he not only won South Carolina, he blew away the rest of the field. As the votes were still being counted, Tom Steyer, who had put his money on South Carolina, lost that bet and he dropped out of the race. Then less than 24 hours ago, the improbable candidacy of former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg came to an end. And as they say on television, but wait, there's more. Just a few hours ago, Senator Amy Klobuchar waved the white flag and pledged her support to Joe Biden. Tomorrow is Super Tuesday, a day that could propel one candidate to the nomination. So there's a lot to talk about as we go around the table, Campaign 2020. And joining me around the table is Keith Schmidt, who served as state director for former Republican Senator Rick Santorum and who worked on Santorum's presidential campaign. On the other side of the table is Joe Mistick, who has been involved in Democratic politics for a long time. He also served as deputy mayor of Pittsburgh, teaches law at Duquesne University, and has a weekly column in The Trib. Now, after Biden's solid victory in South Carolina on Saturday, Sunday morning brought a lot of different headlines and different lines, such as he's got a lifeline now, hold the autopsy, and too little, too late. Is it too little, too late for Joe Biden at this point?
No, it's still going to be a close race, and Democrats are just starting to realize that if Bernie Sanders is the nominee, they will have a hard time winning the White House. Plus, they will not retake the Senate, and they will have a very hard time holding on to Congress. So I think you're seeing a lot of movement right now because of that. Now, the Republicans desperately would like to run against Bernie, and the Democrats, desperately want to beat Donald Trump. So, if Bernie's the guy, I think the Democrats are pretty much in trouble, and they're starting to realize that.
I was one of those guys that said that it was over for Vice President Biden. He certainly has a lifeline. He not only won, he defied the polls. The polls said they were closing. He won by 30 points. But oddly enough, it really just matters if he can parlay it to tomorrow. He got a 24-hour lifeline. He has to perform on Super Tuesday. If he doesn't, his effort's going to get a lot more difficult because he needs the funds and he needs them in a hurry.
All right, well, I want to get the impact of both Buttigieg and Klobuchar dropping out here in just a moment. But first, what you're talking about, Super Tuesday, more than 1,300 delegates are at stake in 14 states. This now is a look at the states with the most delegates. And as you look at the average of polls for each state, as compiled by Real Clear Politics, you're going to see here that Bernie Sanders leads in just about every state with the exception of North Carolina. And again, these are the largest states, not all 14, just the largest states. So as we take a look at these polls, such as this, Joe, it doesn't look good for some of the moderates in the field now.
No, it doesn't look good for some of the moderates, but keep in mind, Joe just has to hit a 15% threshold in order to be eligible to receive some delegates in these states. Some polls show him over that 15%, some show him close. He doesn't need all the votes that would come from Buttigieg dropping out or Klobuchar dropping out. He just needs some of the votes, just enough to get him over that threshold. If he can do that, then he lives to fight another day.
This is not a winner-take-all thing.
That's exactly right.
If you get the margin of 15% of the vote, you get at least one delegate out of that. So with the two dropping out, what does this mean?
Well, again, it matters where those votes end up going. Klobuchar made it clear that she's going to endorse the vice president. But quite frankly, there's not enough votes there. We even have to see this narrow further. The big leader, the leader of the pack right now is Bernie Sanders. He's moving with some momentum into tomorrow. If we can't narrow this field down to one moderate and in a hurry, then Bernie Sanders still has a good chance at a first ballot nomination.
So does that mean, Joe, that the race tomorrow really is between the two moderates? I mean, that's what we should be looking for?
I think so.
Well, I think it is, but it's a little more complicated than that because we still have some people in the middle,
right?
And that doesn't help Joe Biden's chances. But these two people dropping out, these two other candidates dropping out, that can give him just the boost he needs.
All right.
The pressure's on Biden, though, because as we know, with $62 billion behind Mr. Bloomberg, the staying power there it's going to last. The question is for Biden, can he last beyond tomorrow? He needs to perform like he did in South Carolina. Not like he did in South Carolina. He has to have another solid performance and pick up some delegates tomorrow to remain credible in this race.
One of the other states that has a lot of delegates at stake, not over 100, but a pretty good, significant amount, and that's the state of Massachusetts. That also happens to be the home state of Elizabeth Warren. This is the latest average of polls compiled by Real Clear Politics, and right now she's losing her home state to Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, she is, but she's holding Bernie pretty even, which is pretty good from Joe Biden's perspective.
Yeah, but it's her home state.
Right, and you might expect her to do better. Joe Biden just needs her to stay competitive.
As we see people dropping out after tomorrow, I think Bernie, if he wants that first ballot nomination, he has to see Elizabeth drop out tomorrow. He needs her to drop out quickly so he can start gaining more and more delegates, and that 15% that she's getting in some states is key to him for some delegates that he's going to need on the first ballot.
That's what you say. It wouldn't seem obvious to me, Joe, though, that those delegates that would be for Warren aren't necessarily going to go for Biden.
Yeah, the bulk of those.
I'm talking about that they would go to Sanders. He needs them
for
a first ballot nomination.
The bulk of those would go. The bulk of those would go to Bernie.
He needs them
right.
for a first ballot nomination.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, like we faced in 2012 when the speaker stayed in too long for Mr. Santorum. Newt Gingrich split the conservative vote, and the winner ended up being the moderate.
Right. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Sure.